Yeah, it's gonna be a wild weekend. I'm really excited about these two matchups. I'm excited to talk about it too. But
Yeah.
who are what's the number one thing you're looking for? Let's start a little bit with the Ohio State Georgia game. That's definitely the game I'm most interested in personally. Nothing
Yeah.
against TCU Michigan, but I'm really interested to see that and curious on your thoughts.
So personally for me, I'm very interested to see how CJ Stroud reacts to the pressure of the Georgia defensive front. I did a lot of watching of CJ Stroud's 2021 film recently because I thought from the summer scouting that he reacted a little bit better to pressure and was more willing to climb in situations. I think one of the things that's been actually detrimental to his ability under pressure has been actually getting two bookend tackles like Paris Johnson, DeWan Jones, and I really want to see if he really responds to those pressure situations. And I talk about this a lot, especially with Kenny Pickett. Fight or flight. What are you going to rely on? Are you going to fight in the pocket and step up and take a hit with those pass rushers around you, or are you going to try and flight out of the pocket, try to outrun a guy, and make a throw on the move? I'm very curious to see if Stroud can one beat those guys to the corner because I do think he's an underrated athlete for what he's billed
He just
as.
doesn't use it.
No, he doesn't. The funniest part is there's a game against Northwestern and he has like a 60-yard run and I'm like, why don't you do this more often? And the funniest part is Justin Fields also didn't really do that in college as nearly as much as he should have. And maybe that has something to do with their coaching. It's definitely a big point of emphasis for me when I'm watching Stroud. Overall, like I'm just very curious to see how he responds to pressure. A lot of great matchups in this game, and I'm sure you're going to get to one of the best ones for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I think for me, because I've been going through a lot of cornerback tape, kind of like what I was talking about last week, I'm trying to finalize some, thoughts on a lot of the higher ranked or bigger name quarterback or cornerbacks. But Keely Ringo, I mean, we've talked all bowl season when we previewed like some of the smaller bowls with a lot of draftable prospects and day three range. We just don't get to see a lot of the elite prospects play in bowl games anymore. A lot of guys sitting out because, unless you're in the college football playoff, it really doesn't do a ton for like your stock or your program. But the college football playoffs give us a chance to see some of these elite matchups. And, Keely Ringo is going to be going up against Marvin Harrison Jr. Harrison Jr., if you guys, which I'm sure most of y'all, if you listen to the show, have seen, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the first receiver off the board. I would bet pretty much every dollar I had in my bank account that he's the first guy at that position taken next year. He has rare, like, top five receiver ability. This is a guy who I don't even know if there is a ceiling for him because already incredibly refined as, as a route runner, excellent release package, can win contested catches. The body control is unbelievable, can high point the football, electric, good athlete, can get down the field vertically. Like, I don't really see a lot of negatives to Harrison's game. I mean, there's a very real conversation to be had about if he's already the best receiver in college football and he's not even draft eligible. And then you look at Ringo, who just in my live viewings of Georgia, Georgia's so dang dominant on defense. I think Ringo's had a nice season. He's done some good things. Maybe just didn't take the leap that a lot of us were kind of maybe anticipating because of his athletic profile. But Ringo, special athlete in his own right, and he's not going to be outmatched in that regard in terms of that matchup with Harrison. It's going to be more about him being good with his footwork, making sure that he's not over aggressive at the line of scrimmage. I'm very interested to see that matchup, and I hope we get enough one-on-one reps between those two guys. I anticipate, just because of Georgia being a freaking wagon all season long, that Ohio State's going to be playing from behind, which I actually think is a good thing because just in terms of draft insight or anything like that I really care about, I want to see Stroud throw it up against that defense. I want to see those bookend tackles, DeWan Jones, Paris Johnson, be able to protect the edge. And then I want to see Ringo and how he does on the outside against those talented Ohio State receivers. So it's going to be a crazy matchup.
Yeah.
I hope that game is competitive. I think Georgia wins just because, like I said, I think they've just been a freaking wagon all season long.
I
And
I
they have just looked like the best team to me
yeah.
throughout. I mean, there have been times where I guess maybe halves of the season where they get caught sleeping a little bit or get bored, but man, they've just been flat out dominant.
I will say, I will say this this much. The LSU game, in my opinion, probably exposed a little bit of their weaknesses, which I do believe if they run into like a dominant passing game, that they could get into a lot closer of a game than people are
They were
expecting.
they were not great in the secondary. I watched that LSU game, and there was a lot of like coverage breakdowns, especially for. I mean, I know that they've got a lot of new players in the secondary and guys taking on like bigger roles like Ringo and Cam Smith, but they had some uncharacteristic coverage busts. They weren't plastering the guys whenever that backup quarterback was leaving the pocket. It was not. There was a lot of. I agree. There were some red flags there.
Yeah. I'm honestly very interested to see how Chris Smith and CJ Stroud end up battling because Stroud is very good with his eye manipulation. Smith is one of the more savvy safeties I've watched this year in terms of I don't think he's an amazing athlete, but I think he's asked to do a lot of things and he does them extremely well.
Mhm.
He's very privy to how how an offense lines up. He can see through the formation, see your tendencies, be able to just sit right there and then end up baiting you into a bad decision. You know, it's big. That's a big matchup I'm watching for sure.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I'm really interested in that matchup. Like I said, I just hope it's a good game. I want to see competitive. I want to see competitive games this weekend. I don't really have a rooting interest on who I'd like to see win, but I do want to see competitive games. I do want to talk a little bit about the TCU Michigan game because there are some
Yeah.
matchups in that one that have some NFL draft. Angles to it as well. First off, I think from the Steelers' perspective, you mentioned centers.
Ooh, I
Steve
think you're about
Avila.
to. Yeah. I
I
was.
have not actually had a chance to watch him, like study him, but he has popped for me on tape a couple different times when I watched TCU because they beat the hell out of teams at the line of scrimmage. I mean, there are some games where it just feels like
Kendra Miller.
they're playing on rookie level at the
Yeah.
line of scrimmage and just going to town on guys. I know Avila is a pretty good athlete. In terms of, I know he's played a couple of different positions. So that's always good. Like when you have an interior guy that's played and moved around, he's got a ton of experience. The dude's massive. He's like 6'4", 340 or something like that. Um, he's got good power, and I don't think he's a bad athlete, but he can really, really make a difference in the run game. Then Michigan has
Mozzie
Mozzie
Smith.
Smith, who is like the world's best athlete at nose tackle, just an absolute superhuman. So the battle in the trenches really is intriguing to me. That battle is definitely one that I'm like circling in terms of like as soon as I get the film, I'm gonna go watch that and put out some clips because I think it's gonna be
Yeah.
like a Godzilla type fight between those two in the middle, and then just a guy that I watched this week and then putting out hopefully a scouting report or some final thoughts on him is Quentin Johnston. So I'm really excited about seeing him. Michigan's got some guys on the edge that are on the outside that are good players. DJ Turner, I think his first name's DJ. That he's got some skills. I haven't watched him specifically, but I watched him a little bit over the summer. He's a good athlete for the position, so I'm excited to see them. But Johnston, I think I've all but confirmed that he's going to be my wide receiver one unless something crazy pops out on tape with Jordan Addison that I didn't already know about him from last year. But Johnston's ability just to win vertically with ease and the body control is unbelievable. I watched the Kansas game this week. He made this crazy play. They sent him on a slot fade. Duggan put the ball like in a really good spot, honestly, but Johnson's kind of running to his right and is able to look the ball into his shoulder, like, and catch the ball away from his frame at the
Yeah.
very last moment and get his like 1 foot in bounds in the back of the end zone. And I was just like, holy crap, that is special. That is special type body control and just awareness in the end zone. So I'm a big fan of Johnston. I don't know, like I said, I don't know where he would have been picked last year because I had an otherworldly grade on Garrett Wilson. I thought he was fantastic. But Johnston's going to have a round 1 grade from me for sure, and I think he's going to end up being the first receiver off the board.
Yeah, you mentioned Johnston. You definitely picked up a lot of the good topics for this game. There's a lot of great ones. Johnston, for me, like what's impressive about him is his ability to make a contested catch and still be able to go after and still be able to transition after the catch.
It's wild.
It's ridiculous. It's special. Like the way he can sink his hips and then just explode out of his cuts. That is not normal for a 6'4" receiver.
6'4", 215.
Yeah, that's wild. And
Different.
you mentioned the matchup at the top, Avila versus Mozzie Smith. Mozzie Smith is the number 1 listed player on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He is 6'3", 337 pounds. He's gonna have like a 33. He's like been timed at like a 33-inch vertical. He's close gripped, benched 550 pounds. He has he's been timed at a 6.953 cone drill, which I don't think I've ever seen anything like that for a defensive tackle who is listed at that. It's one thing to be powerful. It's one thing to be flexible like that and just be able to shift laterally like he does. So I'm very, very curious to watch him versus Steve Avila, who is an absolute road grader. In terms of, the bill, in terms of the matchups to watch, I'm really interested to see Hodges Tomlinson, who's another Feldman freak, versus Ronnie Bell.
Real quick, did you see that the Shrine he got? So Tomlinson is LaDainian Tomlinson's nephew. Did you see that he got a Shrine Bowl invite, but they listed him as a safety? This is off topic, but did you see that?
I saw that, and I was like, 1, I didn't know how he wasn't going to the Senior Bowl. 2, safety.
Agreed.
That didn't make a lot of sense to me, at least from what I've seen of him. But hey, he can, he's an impressive athlete. He could probably do a lot of different things. Maybe they want to see his versatility. Yeah. Definitely something to keep an eye out for sure. A guy I'm very impressed with. I'm in terms of his balance, his fluidity, and his ability to string moves together. Kendre Miller, for me, might be one of the top 5 running backs in this potential class if he ends up declaring. He has really good receiving ability out of the backfield. He knows how to constantly fall forward on first contact, but he also can keep his balance extremely well through contact, which is it's a huge plus for me. Yards after contact, we talk about it a lot, but I want to see guys who can churn out those yards through contact. That's a type of stat I actually think people need to invest more in, because I think the running back hit rate would go way up in that regard. But Miller, very explosive, can sink his hips extremely well. Very curious to see if TCU can get that push up front. And I think it's kind of interesting. I'm not big on JJ McCarthy as a prospect right now for going forward for like several.
He's got buzz though. There's a lot of people that like him.
Yeah, he's definitely got to fill out into his frame. Maybe he ends up getting a little bit more arm strength in that regards, but I think him and Max Duggan, at least right now, they're very similar in terms of what they could do. They're not the biggest arm guys, and they're going to underthrow some guys, but they allow their guys to go up and get it, and that's one of those things that's going to be important to watch. How does the secondary end up playing those guys? And I honestly think these two teams are very similar. They're built very similar in terms of defense and being able to dominate. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate with Blake Corum, but Donovan Edwards is a talent. is a true talent as a true sophomore. Very excited to watch him for years to come. Yeah. A lot of great matchups. Honestly, just looking forward to this college football playoff. And slightly off topic, can't wait to watch Oregon versus UNC tonight. We're
Oh, I
recording.
know. I'm so mad that I'm missing that.
Yeah.
I think on paper that Oregon UNC game might be the best matchup for bowl season. Period. I
Yes.
really do. I think it's just in terms of what I'm interested in. I'm interested in Drake May and even Bo Nix has caught my interest. But there's a lot of guys with Oregon that I think have particular interesting draft story or angles. But yeah, you mentioned Corum, like you mentioned KJ Miller. This running back class is insanely good. That's why I'm so upset
I
that
love it.
Corum got hurt, because he was in the middle of like a Heisman bid. Michigan's in the college football playoff. I really thought that it was very unfortunate that he's missed time with this injury, kind of going down the stretch. But Corum, he's going to be in the mix in terms of like day 2 running backs. I don't know how I don't necessarily know how the running back pecking order is going to play out, but that's going to be a position that's got crazy depth. And Miller, as soon as you were the first one that really talked to me a lot about how special he is, and every time, like I said, when I pop on TCU, it just seems like they're mauling teams up front, and he's making guys miss, running through guys. I've had a lot of fun watching TCU over the past couple of days when studying Johnston too. So gonna be an interesting weekend of college football. I do want to tell you guys, appreciate the support on the channel, on the show. It's been awesome feedback and all that stuff. So if you like the video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe. You can find us at youtube.com/allsteelers or wherever you get your platforms. We will be back next week, hopefully to review, these college football games and, talk some more Steelers draft stuff. We will holler at you guys later.